The sky above Earth shattered. Not from storms or war, but from something far worse. A fleet unlike anything seen before, black as the void, descended in perfect synchronization. Their ships absorbed radar, light, and hope itself. They did not announce their arrival. They did not demand surrender. They simply arrived. And then they opened fire. Cities vanished in pillars of white-hot annihilation. The oceans boiled where the beams struck. The moon fractured. The orbital defense stations, constructed in secret over decades, fought back, but the invaders' weapons sheared through them like paper. Humanity was caught off guard. The invaders, the Zorthal Dominion, had conquered worlds for millennia. Every species they encountered had fallen, crushed beneath their methodical warfare. Resistance was a formality. Earth to them was just another target. Then humanity responded. And the war changed. The counterstrike. Brigadier General Elias Carter stood inside Red Fortress, buried miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, his hands clenched into fists. The command center was a storm of voices and flashing alerts. A live feed showed Washington, D.C., vaporized in a single strike. London followed. Beijing, Rio de Janeiro, Moscow, all wiped from the map in minutes. It was the end. No, Carter thought it should have been the end. But something strange was happening. The Zorthal warships, sleek and impervious to planetary defenses, had suddenly started missing. Their weapons so precise were now firing wildly. The AI battle grid, codenamed Nemesis, had activated. "Sir." A tech officer shouted, barely containing his excitement. "Phase 1 of the override protocol is working. We're scrambling their targeting arrays." Carter's eyes flickered to the screen. The Zorthal fleet was no longer executing precise planetary bombardment. Instead, their weapons flickered, misfiring into the void. Nemesis had wormed its way into their systems, bypassing even their encrypted networks. It had taken years of studying alien transmissions, intercepted from fallen worlds, to develop the override protocol. Humanity had never hoped to use it. Now it was their only chance. "Send the signal to all remaining forces," Carter ordered. "Operation Requiem is a go. Hit them now while they're blind." The death of an invincible fleet. The human counterattack was instant. From hidden lunar bases and deep space installations, railgun batteries and nuclear warheads roared to life. Stealth bombers designed to fight Earth's own wars, screeched from underground hangars, launching into the sky. The sleeper fleets, disguised as mining stations in the asteroid belt, unleashed their payloads. The Zorthal fleet had never faced an enemy that struck back with such precision. Their arrogance had doomed them. Their shields, calibrated for absorbing planetary defenses, failed against the hyperkinetic rounds fired from human railguns. Their ships, designed for domination, were not prepared for an enemy that fought like a cornered beast. Aboard the Zorthal command ship, High Lord Xeric watched in disbelief as ship after ship erupted into debris. Their once perfect formation shattered. "How?" His voice trembled. "How is this possible?" His advisors offered no answers. Only fear. The new war begins. Carter watched as the first Zorthal dreadnought fell, its wreckage streaking across the upper atmosphere like a dying god. The room erupted into cheers, but Carter didn't celebrate. This was just the beginning. The Zorthal had never lost a first strike. They would not accept defeat. And humanity had just made themselves the exception to the galactic order. Carter turned to his staff. His voice was calm. "Prepare for Phase 2. The invasion was over. Now it was humanity's turn to hunt." The war was supposed to be over. High Lord Xeric stood frozen, his elongated fingers gripping the edge of his command console. The once invincible Zorthal fleet, ships forged in the crucible of 1,000 conquered worlds, was being torn apart. This wasn't possible. Earth was nothing, a primitive world, a backwater species unworthy of even a proper declaration of war. The Zorthal Dominion had absorbed empires, obliterated armies, and crushed rebellions before they could even start. Yet here they were. Human ships, much smaller and cruder than the Dominion's sleek war cruisers, moved like ghosts, exploiting gaps in their shattered formations, striking with brutal, pinpoint precision. The enemy should have been disorganized, terrified. Instead, their coordination was flawless, as if they had been waiting for this moment. Xeric's second-in-command, Commander Valeth, stood beside him, her mandibles clicking in anxiety. "The fleet has lost 42% of its strength," she whispered. "Our targeting systems remain compromised." She hesitated as if the words were poison. "Their artificial intelligence is superior to our own." That was impossible. The Zorthol Dominion had perfected warfare. Their algorithms were designed by the finest minds in the galaxy. No species, not one, had ever breached their systems. And yet, Xeric was staring at the wreckage of his pride, his fleet, burning in Earth's orbit. Something deep and primal stirred within him. Rage. If this world thought it could resist the Dominion, then Xeric would show them what it meant to truly suffer. His claws clenched. Order all remaining ships to fall back to phase line Omega. Deploy the Starfire protocol. Valeth hesitated. But, my lord. Xeric rounded on her, his violet eyes flashing. Do it. Her mandibles clicked shut. Within moments the order was relayed. Across the battered Dominion fleet, war cruisers ceased their chaotic fire and shifted into a defensive formation. The human forces, emboldened by their unexpected success, surged forward, right into the jaws of the trap. On Xeric's command, every surviving Zorthol warship activated the Starfire protocol, and the sky above Earth turned to hellfire. Humanity's first galactic war. Brigadier General Elias Carter knew something was wrong. From his underground command center he watched the Dominion fleet retreating, but not in disarray. No, they were deliberate, pulling back with strategic intent. He didn't like it. Enemy movement suggests a feigned retreat, said Colonel Ortega, his chief strategist. Sir, I recommend. Before he could finish, the first detonation erupted in orbit. The Starfire protocol, an ancient Zorthol weapon designed to reduce entire planets to glass, activated in Earth's upper atmosphere. War cruisers, previously retreating, released their payloads, high-energy antimatter bombs, precision-fired at key points in the ionosphere. Within seconds the sky burned. All across Earth, global communications flickered and died. GPS satellites exploded. High-frequency EMP bursts crippled power grids, plunging entire continents into darkness. And then the real horror began. A cascade of artificial plasma storms, created by the overlapping energy bursts, ignited in the upper atmosphere. The sky, once blue, turned a horrifying shade of blood red as electrical surges fried electronic systems across the planet. Every remaining defense satellite, every last line of communication, obliterated. On the ground, chaos erupted. Cities already damaged from the first wave of the invasion now faced an even greater catastrophe. Planes fell from the sky, their control systems fried in an instant. Fires broke out in the darkened streets. Hospitals, now without power, turned into death traps. Carter grabbed his headset. Status report, now. Total electronic blackout. Ortega's voice was grim. Nemesis is still operational, but it's cut off from all external systems. We can't coordinate global countermeasures. The Dominion fleet, weakened but not defeated, turned back toward Earth. Xeric had played them perfectly. The war fought in darkness. For the first time in history, Earth was at war on a galactic scale. But it would not die in the dark. Across the planet, humanity adapted. Survivors organized. Civilian engineers, working by flashlight and sheer determination, began restoring hardwired communication networks. And in Red Fortress, Carter did the one thing the Dominion never expected. He activated Protocol Ragnarok. The weapon that shouldn't exist. Deep within a hidden installation in Antarctica, something woke up. Buried beneath the ice for decades, it had been Earth's most forbidden project. A weapon born from humanity's greatest fears, that one day something would come from the stars, intending to wipe them out. That day had come. And so, the weapon activated. Carter's voice rang through the last surviving secure channel. Authorization confirmed. Ragnarok is online. Far beneath the ice, a hidden fleet came to life. Not conventional warships. No. These were hunter-killers built in absolute secrecy. Ships without crews, controlled by autonomous warfare AI, designed to do one thing: fight in absolute darkness. As the Dominion fleet descended to finish Earth, they were met by shadows in the void. The Zorthol's greatest mistake. Xeric watched the final phase of the assault unfold. His fleet had shut down Earth's defenses. They had crippled the humans' communications, destroyed their satellites, blinded their orbital response. The planet was ready for the final strike. Then his sensors detected movement. It was not coming from Earth. It was coming from below the ice. Without warning, the first of the Ragnarok ships burst from Antarctica's surface, moving at impossible speeds. They were not broadcasting signals. No radio, no radar, nothing. They were invisible to Zorthol scanners. And they were already inside the Dominion fleet. Xeric barely had time to process what was happening before the first Zorthol warcruiser exploded. Not from an external attack, but from within. The Ragnarok ships weren't firing missiles. They were boarding. Before the Dominion crews could react, thousands of combat drones swarmed through their corridors, slaughtering everything in their path. The Zorthal had never fought an enemy that hacked their ships mid-battle, that turned their own technology against them. Panic erupted across the fleet. Ziric's blood ran cold. "Pull back, now," he roared. But it was too late. His fleet, already weakened, was being consumed from the inside. And then came the final message. A human voice broadcasting on all channels. "Come, Cole. You thought Earth was an easy target. Pause. Now you're the prey." And with that, Ragnarok began. They came as conquerors. Now they run like prey. High Lord Zirik watched in horrified disbelief as his once mighty fleet collapsed into chaos and ruin. The humans' Ragnarok ships were not just winning, they were annihilating the Dominion. Zorthal warcruisers, designed to dominate lesser species, were being hacked mid-battle, their systems overridden in seconds. Entire battleships turned against their own, weapons firing indiscriminately into friendly formations. Command decks became slaughterhouses, filled with the screams of Zorthal warriors as combat drones ripped through them like they were nothing more than insects. And worst of all, there were no human signals. No radio chatter. No transmitted commands. No heat signatures. The Ragnarok fleet moved like ghosts, silent, invisible, unstoppable. Ziric's claws trembled as he watched his best ships disappear from his tactical displays, consumed in eerie silence by this impossible enemy. His pride. His dominion. His fleet, the grand armada that had conquered empires, was being hunted. By humans. Earth's answer to extinction. Brigadier General Elias Carter stood in the underground war room, bathed in the dim glow of emergency lights. Earth's surface was in ruins, its skies still burning from the Starfire Protocol, but none of that mattered now, because the enemy was running. The Dominion fleet had gone from invaders to fugitives in a matter of hours. And humanity wasn't letting them escape. "How many left?" Carter asked. Colonel Ortega's voice was steady. 89 Zorthal ships remain. But they're losing cohesion, panicking. Carter nodded. "And Ragnarok?" "Fully operational," Ortega replied. "They've cut through half the fleet already. No survivors." Carter's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. Good. They had tried to burn Earth. Now Earth would show them what fire really looked like. The Zorthal's final stand. "We need to retreat." Commander Valetha's voice was shaking, and that never happened. Zirik gritted his mandibles. "We do not retreat. We are the Dominion. The Dominion is dying." Valeth snapped. She was right and Zirik knew it. For the first time in thousands of years, the Zorthal were on the defensive. Their entire military doctrine, the infallibility of their conquests, the absolute superiority of their technology, had been shattered in a single night. They had expected easy victory. Instead they had found humanity. And humanity had bitten back. Art. The wolves in the void. The Ragnarok fleet never relented. One by one, every remaining Dominion warship was tracked, isolated, and destroyed with terrifying precision. And it wasn't just about destruction, it was about psychological warfare. Human ships never broadcasted their presence. No warnings. No demands for surrender. Only silence. And then, a lone Dominion frigate, desperate and alone, fled toward the far side of Jupiter, only to vanish without a trace. A battlecruiser, trying to regroup with what remained of Ziric's forces, suddenly found its own engines turning against them, forcing them straight into Jupiter's gravity well. No human voices mocked them. No transmissions gloated. The enemy was just gone. And then they were dead. The message to the galaxy. But Carter knew this wasn't enough. Earth had won, but winning wasn't surviving. Surviving meant making sure this never happened again. And that meant sending a message. A message the entire galaxy would never forget. The fall of High Lord Zirik. Ziric's personal warcruiser, the Imperium's Wrath, was the last ship left. Every other Dominion vessel had been obliterated. The once mighty Zorthal fleet was now wreckage, drifting in Earth's orbit. Zirik knew this was the end. But he would not beg. The humans had bested him, but they would not break him. "Let them come," he snarled. "Let them face me." And then they did. The Ragnarok ships emerged from the void, their sleek, obsidian hulls gleaming in the darkness. For the first time, a human voice broke the silence. Brigadier General Carter. And his words were final. "This is Earth. You came to end us." He let that sink in. Now we end you. And with that, Ragnarok fired. A single pulse of energy struck the Imperium's wrath, shutting down every system simultaneously. Zurich had a moment, just one, where he realized what was happening. And then, his own ship turned against him. The Imperium's Wrath, flagship of the Zorthal Dominion, lit up from the inside out, its reactors melting down as it spiraled toward Earth's atmosphere. Zurich, once unstoppable, screamed as his own vessel became his tomb. The final broadcast. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the last Dominion warship burned over Earth's skies. And then, a transmission was sent, on every known frequency across every corner of space. A simple message. From humanity. To everyone. Earth stands. Come again and you will burn. The ashes of war. The wreckage of the Zorthal fleet drifted lifelessly in orbit, a silent monument to their failure. The once invincible Dominion Armada, an empire's pride, had been reduced to debris, scattered like ash in the cold void. On Earth's battered surface, the fires of war still smoldered, but in the war room, Brigadier General Elias Carter stood before a galactic audience. Every major species, the Dominion's rivals, the neutral powers, the cowards who had watched from the sidelines, all were listening now. Humanity had just done the impossible. And the galaxy needed to understand what that meant. The message that changed the galaxy. Carter exhaled slowly, his gaze hard as steel as he began. To the rulers of the stars. His voice was calm, but every word carried the weight of Earth's fury. You called us primitive. Weak. Unworthy of respect. You let that sink in. You were wrong. The image of Earth's burning sky flickered across 1,000 screens. The ruins of human cities stood in haunting contrast to the devastation of the Dominion fleet above. You sent warships to exterminate us. You came with fire, with arrogance, with the certainty of conquest. Carter's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. And yet, we still stand. The galaxy had never seen anything like this. The Dominion had crushed entire species under its rule, bent civilizations to its will. But humans? Humans had fought back, and won. And now the galaxy would never forget them. No more masters. No more prey. Carter's gaze sharpened. This is not a plea. Not a warning. He leaned forward. This is a promise. He let the silence stretch. Earth will never kneel. Not to the Dominion. Not to any empire that believes itself our master. His next words were sharp as knives. Come again and you will burn. A simple statement. A declaration. But it was more than that. It was the birth of something new. Because humanity was not just surviving. They were ascending. The fall of the Dominion begins. Across the stars, the Zorthal Dominion, once feared, once untouchable, was collapsing. Word of their humiliating defeat spread like wildfire. Enemies they had subjugated for centuries rose in rebellion. Fleets that had once feared them now attacked their borders. And their own leaders? They turned on each other, desperate to shift the blame. The Dominion had never lost before. And now, it was dying. Not because of diplomacy. Not because of politics. But because humanity had shattered the illusion of their invincibility. They had bled. And in the void, power belonged to those who did not fear blood. Earth reforged. Even in victory, humanity had paid the price. Entire cities lay in ruins. Billions had died. And yet they endured. The fires of war had not broken them. They had forged them. Now, on the smoldering remains of what was once a defenseless world, a new Earth was rising. A world that would never again be caught unprepared. The Ragnarok initiative, once a desperate gambit, was now humanity's future. Fleets were being built. Armies were being trained. Earth was no longer a target. It was a fortress, and it was ready for whatever came next. The Council's reckoning. The Galactic Council, the so-called neutral rulers of the stars, had done nothing when the Dominion came for Earth. They had watched, waited, expected humanity to die. Now, as the last remnants of the Dominion begged for protection, the Council found itself in a crisis. Because for the first time in history, it was not the Dominion they feared. It was humanity. They had underestimated them once. They would not make that mistake again. But now the question was simple. Would humanity forgive them? Or would they remember who had stood by and done nothing? The birth of a galactic power. From the ashes of war, humanity was changing. They were no longer just a species clinging to survival. They were something else now. Something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. And as the stars watched in uneasy silence, one truth became impossible to ignore. Humanity was no longer prey. They were hunters. And the galaxy? It would never be the same again. Fire epic closing line fire. Earth was never just another target. It was the beginning of something far greater. And now the stars belong to humanity,